What is up, everybody, and welcome here to The Driveway, where this week we're taking a walkthrough of a German-branded 7-seater built right here in the good old US of A. It's the all-new 2018 Volkswagen Atlas. So let's get to it, and as with all the cars we've looked at before, we begin here with performance. Now, the Atlas that we've been testing this week is the SEL V6 4Motion, meaning that once you pop the hood, you find Volkswagen's 3.6-liter double overhead cam 24-valve V6 with their fuel stratified direct injection. In the Atlas here, it makes 276 horsepower and 266 pound-feet of torque. And while those are class competitive numbers, unfortunately, it means that the Atlas is still not the most powerful three-row family hauler in this particular category. And with the 4Motion all-wheel drive in this application as well, our fuel economy unfortunately drops to 17 in the city, 23 on the highway. However, with smaller engines and some of the lesser trim levels, that rating can climb as high as 22 in the city, 26 on the highway. Now, the starting procedure for Atlas models like my tester equipped with Volkswagen's keyless access system and push-button start is pretty much just like all the others. You have a standard keyless access fob, which unfortunately in this case it feels a little bit cheap and plasticky and definitely not the most premium thing I've ever held in my hand, but it definitely does get the job done just fine. You have all the basic functions, lock, unlock. In this case, you also have a power tailgate with hands-free access and also remote start, which you'll see here momentarily. But it's like all the others, as I said before, just keep the key in the vehicle, foot on the brake, hit the button in the center console, and now, from an exterior design perspective, one of the things that's really caught my attention about the Atlas is the fact that Volkswagen has offered a little bit more of a conventional take on the family three-row SUV. In a world obsessed with much more modern-day profiles and designs, it's nice to see Volkswagen sticking with what they know and offering customers everything that they need and nothing that they don't, with a little bit of extra thrown in here and there. But in terms of features, this SEL tester of mine is right up there with the best of them. And at an as-tested price shown here of just over $43,600, it damn well better be. But starting here at the front, my SEL does have these full LED headlights. They also have the factory LED light guides that automatically illuminate on the automatic setting here. You also get LED daytime running lights and LED turn signals, and you also get these standard fog lights, which as a bonus are actually directionally responsive. So you put on your turn signal or turn in either direction, each individual fog light will actually illuminate a little bit brighter to help illuminate the direction in which you're turning. Now, we also, as standard on this tester, have Volkswagen's Park Pilot system, which is their front and rear parking assist. Now, when it comes to what you're rolling on, the Atlas does offer a slew of different wheel and tire combinations. However, the ones that we have here today on our tester are perhaps the best. These are the SEL standard 18-inch painted aluminum alloy wheels. Now, the reason I say these are the best is, for one, they are wrapped in some thick 245 60R 18-inch Continental tires, and as we know, the thicker the sidewall, the more comfortable and quiet the ride. Now, these, combined with the four-wheel independent suspension on the Atlas, make this one of the most comfortable and quiet SUVs that we've tested to date. Now, when it comes to the numbers, the Atlas is still very much a class competitive vehicle, not only in the fact it can seat up to 7 people and tow up to 5,000 pounds, but just in the sheer size of the thing. The Atlas stretches 198.3 inches long from nose to tail, and as tested here, we're looking at a curb weight of just over 4,500 pounds. But continuing on with the exterior features, one of the things that has caught my eye time and time again, no matter which way I look at this thing, are these body lines. Everything from the one here that goes all the way under the windows and all the way out the back, to the ones that flow up here over the wheel arches, and even these large strakes here and these slight bulges in the hood, all of which leads down to the big VW emblem here in this chrome lavished grille. But continuing on with the rest of the standard equipment, it's pretty modern day stuff. You have body colored side view mirrors with integrated LED turn signals. My tester here also includes the blind spot monitoring with rear cross traffic alert, and as we start up towards the roof, we not only have these beautiful silver finished roof rails, if you can see it, we also have a full power tilting and sliding panoramic sunroof. Now as we move along the sides and towards the Atlas's rear end, again, one thing that strikes me is just how unmistakable Volkswagen's design language has become these days. Rather than curvaceous flowing lines all over the place, Volkswagen has gone for a much more sharp and edgy appearance. You can see inside these full LED taillights here on my tester, we have all these little shapes flowing around the inside. You have this edgy line that goes from the top of the tailgate all the way down and around the back of the bumper here. Now of course we do have a lot of other things. We do have a power tailgate here with hands-free access. It's one of those ones where you kick your foot under the rear tailgate and supposedly it will open. You do have also the appropriate badging. Again, mine is the V6 with 4Motion all-wheel drive. I love the Atlas badging going across the chrome trim here. No big outlandish badges covering up the paintwork. You do also have a nice little backup camera here, which is very nice in high definition. I'll show you that here in just a bit. And then if we go down towards the rear bumper, I'm loving the chrome trapezoidal exhaust finishers. It's not the actual exhaust itself, which is a bit of a bummer and it kind of detracts away from the experience, but I just love how it flows in with the rear design language. And also finishing everything off here on the rear, we do also have the rear assist sensors for Volkswagen's Park Pilot system. Now before we even get to the interior, one thing I definitely wanted to say is that even though this car is built here in the United States, it certainly has not lost its true VW Germanic quality. Just listen to when we open the door. Now once you finally do open the door to the Atlas and look inside, you'll find that certain elements seem to have come from Volkswagens of at least a few years ago, albeit they've been updated slightly to fit the Atlas specifically. Now, my particular SEL tester, even though it's as high up on the trim level ladder as it is, does not have the premium leather seats in it. Unfortunately, we have the VTEX Titan Black leatherette upholstery here, which kind of detracts away from the premium sort of feeling that I think this SUV was aimed at, but also it just kind of detracts away from the feeling in general, if I'm honest. But it's not all aesthetically bad. Up here on the top of the door, we do have a little bit of padding here, nice place to rest your arm, but then you do have some kind of fake things like this wood-like veneer here. I hesitate to even call it wood because it really doesn't even look like it, but you have a nice little painted surround to go around that, which then trails down to this leatherette padded insert and armrest. Again, it's kind of cheap feeling, a little bit on the plasticky side, but it does have some nice padding to it, which does allow for a nice place to rest your arm. So either the top of the door or the armrest is fine. But then in terms of your powered conveniences, it's all the same stuff. You have your power door locks, power mirrors, and all 4 automatic power windows. So that's a nice little thing, along with your window locks. But then moving down here just below that, you also have a nice little trigger function here for that power assisted liftgate. Now once you finally get behind the wheel of the Atlas, the first thing you notice is just how much the view and the driving position feels like that of a much bigger 3-row SUV compared to a lot of today's other vehicles in this category. A lot of 3-row crossovers and SUVs that I've driven recently somehow seem to feel a little bit more like a lifted up car rather than a true SUV like this. But once you finally look down and start looking around the interior again, certain elements do feel quite familiar, especially having examined a lot of vehicles from the Volkswagen and Audi group, but other elements seem to feel like they were meant just for the Atlas. But starting here directly in front of the driver, we have this wonderful leather trimmed 3-spoke multifunction steering wheel. And one thing I found rather funny is that a lot of vehicles I've tested recently, the the controls for the radio and everything are over here on the left, and the cruise control functions are over here on the right. But in the Atlas, they're actually flip-flopped. So over here on the left, you have all of your cruise control and the active cruise control functions. That's a part of the standard safety suite that's been installed on my particular tester. We also have radio volume controls, but then over here on the right, you have multiple controls for the little liquid crystal display up there in the gauge cluster, and you also have things such as your hands-free Bluetooth, and again, more controls for the hands-free radio functions. Now, focusing specifically on that driver information center there in the gauge cluster, for starters, I wish these gauges were the ones out of the SEL Premium. That beautiful thin film transistor display that displays all relevant information, as well as a wonderful projection of your tachometer and speedometer. But again, focusing on that little information center, again, the buttons are on the steering wheel, and if you use the little silver ones labeled like a book, you go back and forth. You can go through things like driver assist, so that's active cruise control, lane keep assist, and so on. And you can, of course, turn that on and off. You can see things like your Bluetooth audio, Bluetooth telephone, different vehicle statuses, and then, of course, your driving data, which then you can use the up and down arrows on the right-hand side of the wheel to go through things such as your overall fuel economy, active fuel economy, oil temperature, different warnings, vehicle speeds, average speed, and just the list goes on. And eventually you get back to the one we had, which, of course, was the range. Now, shifting our attention over here to the center stack for a second, the first thing we definitely have to talk about is the infotainment system in the Atlas. This thing is a beautiful setup. It's dominated up here by an 8-inch touchscreen display with even touch functions here around the outside of it. So you have different functions such as your radio, Bluetooth media, Bluetooth telephone, and voice command. But then you have other more interesting ones like your different applications. This is Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, and Mirror Link as well. Your different sound functions, so bass, mid, treble, all that good stuff. But then you have more interesting ones like the car function. So this has your active fuel economy since you started the vehicle and started driving, sort of a cool little economy meter, and then it even gives you a score out of 100 as to how fuel efficiently you're actually driving. You keep pushing it, you have things such as your vehicle statuses, such as service warnings and whatnot, climate control functions, average MPGs, and then it goes right back to your little Think Blue trainer here, which again, I think that is just awesome. But then you go to the menu function, and it's pretty much everything you just saw all over again. You even have one for the climate functions in here. So instead of using all the buttons down here, which we'll talk about in just a moment, you can actually do everything up here through the infotainment system. Now, speaking of infotainment, and more so entertainment, this vehicle has one hell of a sound system. It's not anything brand name, just a standard system by Volkswagen, but with it having 8 speakers, it still does pack a pretty hefty punch once you turn the bass up. Yet another fine piece of Germanic quality, not even a brand name stereo system, and yet it packs just as much of a punch as one. Now, the final little praise that I have to give this infotainment display up here is with the rear view camera. So we'll just pop the car into reverse here for just a second, and up pops this crisp, clean, wide view rear view camera there in the rear. I say it's crisp and clean because it is one of the best quality backup cameras I've actually seen in any vehicle of this caliber and price tag that I've been in recently. I can't tell you how many times I put the car in reverse and there's so many fuzzy displays and it's really grainy and the camera just seems a little dated, but in the Atlas it feels of a lot better quality. I mean, this is an almost $45,000 SUV after all. Now, moving down just a hair, we then get to at least the front physical part of the Climatronic Tri-Zone climate control system. Talk about a name for one of these things, shall we? But anyways, this is basically just the physical bank of buttons that represents that part of the touchscreen system, which I actually showed you guys earlier, which ironically I also have pulled up here in the display just so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Now, you can pull up the touchscreen display actually just by touching the menu button here within the fan speed knob here in the middle. You also have things such as automatic AC, both your temperatures on either side, and then of course across the top you have things such as the 3-stage heated seats for both of the front occupants, as well as the controls for the climate zones and air conditioning recycling. You also have things such as the sync button, maximum air conditioning and air conditioning introduction, as well as your front and rear defrost located within the 2 temperature controls themselves. But then moving down from that, we get to a rather important button, which is this little one right here. It says off, and it also has a little A with a circle around it. That is your auto start stop system. So you push that, and if it's illuminated, it means the auto start stop system is deactivated. But the moment you turn it back on and actually put your foot on the brake, the engine will actually stop, as I've done now. And as you can see, the vehicle has now powered down and is running on a bit of a mild hybrid system. It's an electrical system that allows the interior electronics to actually function, such as the climate controls, the infotainment, and so on. But the moment I put my foot back on the gas pedal, the engine all of a sudden kicks back to life and will be on our way once again. So it's a very interesting system to use, and it mainly works when you come to a full stop, or at least are at somewhat of a creeping pace. Now, moving down below the climate controls, we get to the center console, and of course we have things such as the iPod USB and auxiliary inputs. We also do have a nice USB charger here in the center console to go along with it, so 2 total USB chargers here just in the front alone. But then you get to the shifter for the 8-speed Tiptronic automatic transmission, pretty much the standard transmission you'll find across the Atlas range. Now, it does include a sport mode along with manual shifting capabilities. The sport mode is just simply activated by pulling the shifter back one more time once you're in the drive position, and that will of course increase the throttle mapping, shift points, and so on. But if you want to shift the gears yourself even, you can go into the manual mode, just push up to go up a gear and pull down to go down a gear. Apart from that, here in the center console, we do also have the silver engine start-stop button, which you guys saw me use in the very beginning. But then we also get to the active part of the 4Motion all-wheel drive system here on my tester, controlled through this little knob here in the middle. You have 4 main modes. You have snow, normal, and off-road, and then off-road custom. That's this one over here on the far right. That allows you to tailor the vehicle for any kind of off-road conditions you may encounter. Now, one thing that's pretty cool is that when you're in the normal mode, like we are now, you can actually push the mode button here in the middle, and it will actually bring up 4 separate driving modes: Eco, Normal, Sport, and Custom for road use. So you can have the transmission in Sport, but the engine in Normal, and the suspension or whatever in Comfort. So it's all fully adjustable and easily tailored to anyone's desires. Below that, we also have the button to turn off the Park Pilot front and rear parking assist, and we also have an electronic parking brake to go along with it. Now, moving back to where the rear occupants are, you actually do still have a few creature comforts to go along with it as well, including things like these rear sunshades here on my SEL tester, which is kind of a nice little thing to have. But looking into the second and third row seats, for starters, the second row is 60-40 split fold, while the rear seats, the third row specifically, is a 50-50 split fold. But they are easy to access. You actually can tilt the whole seat forward here by just using this nice little lever that allows you a little bit easier access into those rear seats. Then you have to pull the trigger and then they lock right back in place, or you can even fold them flat by simply using the little latch here on the side. But once you get in the back seat, as I said, I'm 6'1", and this back seat has a lot of room in it, and I do mean a lot. We do have 2 USB chargers down there. Like I said, there's a total of 4 in this car here now, and we also have the third physical part of the Climatronic Tri-Zone climate system. You have your fan speed over here on the right, button to turn it off, climate zones, an automatic function, and your temperature control over here on the left, so your rear occupants can tailor the air conditioning in the back just so. Now, we also do have a couple of other things. We do have these 2 little leatherette bound map pockets, but the main thing that you really can notice from back here is when you look up. The full panoramic sunroof with this wonderful sunshade back here. I'm just loving how far back it goes, and it's nice that they actually made it a decent size, because that way you don't lose a lot of the rigidity in the structure of the vehicle by adding a massive panoramic sunroof all the way down. Now again, with the Atlas being aimed at rather large groups of people, or specifically larger families, of course you're going to need a lot of room to store your stuff. Now you can simply open the tailgate by using the latch, or you can use the button on the key fob, or you can go one better and use the hands-free function by simply waving your foot about where that trailer hitch is here on my test vehicle, and that will access the hands-free tailgate system for you. Now once you look inside, you do actually have quite a lot of room back here. You're looking at 20.6 cubic feet of space to start, just behind the third row of seats, but that then extends to 55.5 cubic feet when you fold down the third row, but fold away everything, second and third row of seats, and you're looking at 96.8 cubic feet of space, which as far as we're concerned is enough to store anything from soccer gear to suitcases. Now of course you can't talk about a big family vehicle like this without talking about safety, and of course the Atlas delivers on that front, providing not only the usual array of safety features such as anti-lock brakes, tire pressure monitoring, and the wide array of airbags, but also things such as active safety features as standard here on my SEL tester. Now some of those include the adaptive cruise control, forward collision warning with automatic emergency braking with pedestrian detection, blind spot monitoring, and lane keep assist. So it's pretty fair to say that even though the IIHS has not rated this thing in terms of its crash test ratings yet, it's pretty fair to say that you are very safe in one of these vehicles. Now getting into the passenger seat for just a second, it's just the same as the driver's seat. Plenty of support around my midsection and a lot of space for my broad shoulders up there at the top. Looking into the glove box for a second, it's kind of damped, but not lined in felt or anything super luxurious like that. All of your nighttime reading materials in here, and then up top you actually have slots for SD cards and also for a CD player in case you want a little bit of extra media uploaded to your system. But in the end, Volkswagen has actually really done themselves well with the Atlas here. It's just another way they've kept improving, but still kept to what they know. They really have not changed things super dramatically or radically. Everything from the powertrain to a lot of the technology here feels familiar, and I think that's definitely a good thing when it comes to buying a new SUV. And unfortunately, on that note, everybody, our time here with the all-new Volkswagen Atlas has now unfortunately drawn to a close. I do hope everybody's enjoyed this review as much as I've had fun making it for y'all. Now, if you guys like what you see, please do hit that thumbs up button, and also be sure to click that subscribe button down below for many more videos like this and more to come in the future. But anyways, in the end, a huge thanks goes out to the folks at Volkswagen for allowing us to have this wonderful family cruiser for an entire week of awesome testing. But in the end, guys, I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. Stay safe on the roads out there, and I'll see you all next time.